For the clock to sound. Guess it's a little slow tonight. Okay, so it is 5 o'clock, even though the clock hasn't told us that yet. So we're going to call the meeting of the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board of the Village of Cooperstown to order. We don't have any public hearings on our agenda tonight, so it's lucky nights. We're going to start with item number 1 on the regular agenda, which is 83 Pioneer Street. Shelby, would you like to come up and sit and talk to us?
Hi, folks.
Hi. We can bring over another chair too, Charlie, so everybody can sit.
Okay.
Please, somebody have a seat. Please be our guest.
Thank you.
I would just like to say, you all realize, as I do, that Cooperstown is not a typical upstate New York town. Between Jane Clark, Otsego Hotel, the lake, the Hall of Fame, the hospital, this is a pretty special place. A few days ago, when autumn was in its full bloom, turning off Beaver Street onto Pioneer Street, the trees on the left, the first ones are autumn blaze maples. They were so beautiful, I pulled over just to enjoy. I love this place, and I love the town. And the last thing in the world I would want to do is do anything that would detract, especially from my block. I think the block is beautiful when it's in full bloom. Therefore, we have Mr. Reamer, Charlie here, designed this carport so that the angles of the slope off the house match the angles of the front porch and the side porch. The posts, the 3 posts that will hold the carport, are going to be boxed just like the posts for the front porch and the side porch. They're squares, they're boxed. It is going to be painted the same color. It is going to, we designed this so it will look as though it was built when the house was built. It matches the house perfectly. As my wife and I continue getting not younger,
Don't get specific.
okay, without getting specific, I know it snows here on occasion, and to, in the morning, first thing come out, my wife has osteoporosis, the lower spine from chemo many years ago. I'm fighting with her. She wants to get on a stepladder to remove the snow. We really can use the help with the carport just for the 1 car in the morning. And that's what we're asking for. So I'm just asking that you guys enable us to do it right this time. When we first moved here, we didn't know what we were doing. I bought from Home Depot, I think it was.
No,
Whatever, what's called a temporary, which was ugly, but it served the purpose. And you can take my word for it. I can show you a picture, which enables us to be here today. I'm actually thankful. A very wet, heavy snowstorm. The carport collapsed on my car.
Yeah.
So I could show you the picture. You can take my word for it. So I'm actually happy because this gives us the opportunity to do it right. So I'm just asking you, please enable us to do it right. It will look just like it was built with the house. And that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you for, and you may pull up a chair.
That's all right, everyone's going to sit there.
But
You can sit and I'll talk.
I appreciate that. Chris, I understand that the other board approved the variance, correct?
Yes, they do.
So that is not in question at this meeting in terms of if it would be approved. So, and I certainly understand your concerns and respect the fact that you're trying to create a situation where you can age in place and be safe and continue to use your driveway and not have carports collapse and not have to worry about scraping a foot of snow off your car. I understand that, and I understand that your lot is very narrow, so it kind of prohibits you from doing a lot of other things too. Does anybody have any questions for the Shelbys or for Charlie before we kind of address this specific, before a motion is made?
No, just appreciate the effort in terms of the aesthetics and the design that really does make it very compatible with the house, and the house being a very nice aspect of the neighborhood.
Bernie, do you have anything?
Nope.
Jay, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Pat?
Nope.
Karen? Nope. Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion? We're not going to look at Dave.
Why are we going?
I'm not really ready. I brought my sheet, but I'm not really ready.
Watch the master
For
of
all
work.
time's sake, I will move that HPAR provide a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 83 Pioneer Street under criteria 2C, 3A, and 3C.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. In the form of discussion, I'm going to make a note that we're specifically kind of considering this also because it is accommodating safety and aging in place. And I'd like that to kind of certainly be reflected in the minutes as well. We want to support you being able to stay in and enjoy your home and safely do it. So.
And no
Thank you.
specifics.
Right.
And I just want to add also that this was referenced, but just specifically for the minutes of this particular solution is also because the lot size doesn't really accommodate an accessory structure for parking.
Okay, thank you, Erin, for pointing that out too.
And, we could add 5
Yes,
as
I think we
criteria.
could add 5.
Given the, mention of providing for health and safety of occupants.
Got that?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, any other discussion before we go to a vote? Okay, Liz votes yes.
Bernie, yes.
David, yes?
Thank you.
Aaron, yes.
Great. Wonderful, thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
I will
Thank
send you a
you very
notice of the decision, so you'll have paperwork coming in the mail within a week.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very
So,
much.
Michelle, I
Really
like that.
appreciate it.
I tell you to take the rest of the night off.
Those people
Thank
are
There would be
rough
some
us.
very angry people if we did that.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Should I shut the lights as we leave?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna call 27 Railroad up. Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Come on up and have a seat. Does anybody need to see the larger drawings of the project, or was everybody able to view it? Okay. Would you like to tell us about your project?
Sure. It concerns aging in place, which kind of referred, as the previous. And also, in the 16 years that I've lived here, Cooperstown has become my home. And my, I guess my enthusiasm has spread to my daughter and family who are currently in Staten Island, and they are working on relocating. And I've offered them my home, and there's been an apartment over the garage. It was the way when my husband and I bought it 16 years ago. And I would like some outdoor space, which I think is what what we're talking about specifically. And
So it's really the only change you're gonna have
the only
outside,
exterior
correct?
change is that.
Is to build a deck or balcony.
Correct.
Over the garage door, or the center door
Right.
of the front of the outbuilding. And you provided us with some helpful drawings, so everybody can visualize this. Does anybody have any specific questions about the proposed addition of the balcony, or not sure what to call it, balcony or
Terrace?
terrace?
If you borrow from Cooper Lane, they call
There
it
you go.
terrace.
Okay, there you go.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yes.
Because that, after we discussed it, and it was noted that the deck will have the same design as the existing railing structure that's on the house. She provided further photos
Great.
of the detail, which are in your packet, which
Thank
you didn't
you.
get previously. So the last page.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I did not see those when I looked at it before, thank you. Awesome. And so the plan is for the structure to be wood, correct? And the spindles to match the others on your property. Great. It's, so Dave, do you have any questions? Or are you still absorbing?
I have one question. What is a window being replaced by a door?
No,
It's already a door, correct?
It's already.
it's already a door.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It'll just have some place for the door to go to.
Yes, I was gonna say. The door.
It's a door to nowhere.
Yeah, well, right, yeah, okay.
It's quite a step up that door. Okay. How about you, Bernie, do you have questions?
Not at this point, thank you.
Okay. Pat, do you have questions? Jay, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Aaron, questions?
So do you not have any questions? Well, I guess I have one question, which is really about the process. So it already is an apartment, but it needs a special use permit.
It has never been, it was used by the previous owners for their own use. It's
Okay.
never been rented.
Got it. And so does the balcony deck terrace require any like special additional approvals, or does that just part and parcel of the ADU process?
It doesn't require any
Okay.
additional approval.
From the village, it will require a building permit from the county.
Right, all of that will
Yeah.
require that, but as far as our concerns tonight, the only architectural concern is that
Is the appearance.
the zoning board will handle the ADU process.
And you trust the people driving in and out of the garage not to take out your lovely balcony? That's the question. Okay, so nobody has any other questions? Bernie, did you need a little more time?
No, 6x6 posts are holding it up, and that sounds good.
We were looking for the information on the structure, and it's in all the detailed information on the right side,
Yeah.
specifies it, so.
My only thought is that I'm not sure that these spindles have anything to do with any historic qualities of the building.
Are they, did you say they're on another portion of your building? The spindles, are they on your back porch or?
No,
Okay.
there's no spindles anywhere.
Okay.
Except for that one place.
So
Which
where are
is
they?
where that door is, that was questioned whether it was a window.
Oh, okay, right,
They're
right,
just in front of that, they're
I-
blocking
right,
that door for
okay.
people walking out into
nowhere. That big first step. So what you're saying is, Aaron, the style doesn't necessarily have to be those spindles. So if you,
Oh, okay, I
If
see
you
what
were
you're
to
saying. There's
choose
nothing else
another
to match.
style,
Because that
because-
would, yeah,
yeah.
you wouldn't have the existing one, that would have to be removed
right,
for the other, otherwise you could never get out on the terrace.
right,
Right, so you could come back with a different kind of spindle
for a field change.
for a field change if you wanted to, because there's no, like, the spindle has nothing to do with the.
Correct.
The rest.
period when your house was constructed or any of that, so.
Right.
So if you were feeling like you had to go with that because it was already on there, you don't need to.
It's, yeah,
Just
helpful.
bring us back what you're proposing using, and we can review it for a field change for the project. Okay? Does
They're
that
pretty.
make sense? Okay. And anybody else, Jay? No? Okay. So who's feeling brave? Push the birdies out of the nest.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay,
I'm gonna need some helpers probably.
okay.
Okay, I move that HCAR provide a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 27 Railroad based on criteria 2. I started it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
I think that's okay.
2B, 2C?
Yeah,
Okay. 3,
okay,
A. Yeah.
and then maybe 5?
I don't, no, I'm not
Okay.
gonna say 5.
Okay.
Because it's nice to have, but
Not now.
plenty of apartments have no exterior function. It's not required for
Okay.
use.
Do I understand 3B correctly, that it doesn't exceed the scale, so
Mhm.
therefore it's allowed, so seems modest and appropriate.
Yep. Are you comfortable with
Sure.
3B?
3B is good.
Okay. Well, Bernie, in the effort to expand everybody's skills here, since you suggested 3B,
Yes.
any interested in seconding the motion?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay.
Dave, are you relieved?
Very well. Well done.
Wow.
Splendid.
Sorry.
Really like
Okay.
the load over there.
Is there any discussion? Okay. Liz votes yes.
David, yes.
Burning yes.
Aaron, yes, I made the motion, doesn't that imply a
I
yes?
think we don't,
Do it anyway?
sometimes
Okay.
occasionally we have.
The people who vote no to their own motion.
Okay, you're all set. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Chris will get you the paperwork you need. Usually it takes about a week, and then move forward with it. Thank you. Okay, 72 Fair Street. Not here yet? Okay. Oh, 52
There are
Chestnut.
a few people who won't be coming tonight, 72 Fair.
Oh, sorry.
Fran LaRue is in Florida, and as
Okay.
well, 52 Chestnut.
Is not coming tonight either.
But they've
Okay.
asked us to.
Review it. So we'll bump that to the end,
Okay.
so people don't have to wait. Just remind me that we don't skip it. Okay, so Fran is not coming tonight, so we'll bump that to the end as well, the 72 Fair? Okay. Thank you, Marcia, I'd already accidentally checked it off. 80 Susquehanna. Ah, perfect timing. Are you here for 80 Susquehanna? Yeah. Come on up and have a seat. Welcome to Cooperstown.
Yes.
Sorry, this is the way you get to meet us. We see that you are not aware that fences and changes in materials need to be reviewed by the Historic Preservation Board and get a permit. So tell us about your project and what you've done.
Oh, okay. Actually, before I started, I asked my neighbors around, do I really need a permit to do that? But they said no. I said, okay. So, actually, I didn't change the fence from the wooden fence to the vine fence.
Mhm.
So I did 5 foot long. That was what I did.
So, and,
So part of it was already 6 feet. So the 6 feet didn't go all the way. So the ones I changed was 5 feet.
and if I remember correctly, that was like a stockade, or, split rail fence before? It was just pieces of wood with a piece of wood across?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, so the style, the height, and the materials have been changed here. And are there still portions of that fence that you're hoping to install, or is that complete at this point?
When somebody came in, I just stopped.
How much
Okay.
is left how much work is left to do?
It should be like about 20 feet
Up to
on the
the
other side,
corner
to the corner.
of Walnut and
The property-
Susquehanna,
Yes, subscribe.
uh-huh, to the corner of the street?
I think the work to be completed is on the opposite
Oh,
side of it, and this,
okay.
it's complete at the corner. I think that's just a tree.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, there's a tree that's.
I see, to the neighbor's yard. So Chris, there will be, because of the height of the fence, are there additional reviews?
Well, there is one concern. I mean, village law says fences can be 4 feet tall, and the finials protruding above can only be 20% of that height. So they can only be, you can do the math, it's 9.75 inches or something. And these finials protrude as high as 21 inches to something to reckon with.
So which board reviews that? The
That would
height?
be you.
Us as well.
Yes. Yes.
And so, okay. What other,
So you see the fence in the rear, the 6-foot fence, its finials are allowed to be 20% of the 6 feet, so it has no problem. It easily meets that.
was that also a split rail fence in the back too? Or was that a taller fence, the fence that you took out?
The one at the back you're talking about?
Yeah.
I didn't really take a measurement now, but I know it was because the other compound behind you on the Walnut, the other compound behind our building, I mean, the floor is so high. So whichever fence that comes on our side, that will be up to be able to measure up with building behind.
So the rear of the property is,
That was,
they have that, essentially abandoned residence behind
yeah.
their property line.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
So what are our choices here?
Our choices are to approve, to ask for modification, or to ask for removal.
Can I ask first about what the function of the finial is?
Sure.
Or does anybody, why do they have that finial?
I guess just because if we didn't have a limit, one could say I have a 4-foot fence, but it's got another 4-foot finials, and
So it would seem that in this case where it's not, the fence itself isn't at the maximum height, that the finials wouldn't necessarily be as big a deal in that line of reasoning, that they're not exceeding.
And here, they get smaller, there's a curve, so if you sort of average them out, they might comply, but.
I see. Thank you.
And then, Chris, with the 6-foot section, that would need,
6-foot section, would be allowed to have 20% of 6 feet, so it's so that barely extends, it only extends a good 10 inches above, so the rear fence has there's no concern about it's extending
It's just, yeah.
by,
so we're struggling a bit because normally things come to us before they're installed. And we understand this is a big investment, and we get that. We also are struggling because we don't generally approve vinyl. If you look around, there aren't a lot of vinyl fences in the village because it's a material we tried to discourage the use of in the historic district. And because of this falling outside of the height guidelines, requirements, how to navigate that as well. And certainly there have been fences that have come to the board that are outside of those guidelines for approval, correct? I'm trying to, not in a while, maybe in your time?
not in my time, but again, my time's been
Yeah,
brief.
yeah. And then a fence over 4 feet does require neighbor consent?
The fence would require, usually any fence over 4 feet would require written notification from the neighbor, it's customary. We could check the law to make sure I get this right. Let's see. Sorry, I should have had this in front of me.
It's okay,
We moved really quickly through this agenda.
we did, and we also had some bigger things on the agenda that are no longer on the agenda that we may have been focusing on.
Right. Yard, 48 inches.
Would it be possible to put it on hold, the decision, and find out what how the neighbors feel about that, if that is the case?
Yeah, we can. I'm not sure who owns that neighboring property at this point, whether it's in the hands of the previous owners or has exchanged hands. So we can do that. I mean, that we may have to do the formality of talking to the neighbors about the height of the fence. Let's see what Chris is finding,
Trying to find it, sorry,
since it's already in place.
I know you can actually have a fence, it's up to 96 inches for a rear fence. There it is, 48 inches above the general ground level of the graded lot. Is sort of the rule, which limitation may be increased for fences to no more than 96 inches upon written acquiescence from each owner of the property adjoining.
So the village is the owner along the one side.
And this is the rear yard, so,
Okay.
and the 6-foot fence is on the rear yard, so
Mhm.
we need
Okay.
written acquiescence from that person.
Okay. So, Chris, that is a process you could initiate
Yes.
to, and that's a first step to make sure that owner is amenable to a 6-foot fence between the properties. And then we can kind of move on from there regarding materials and design, in terms of the issues with the finials.
Can I ask, do you know if the person who lives on the back side, does someone live there, or is it?
I can point you toward the past owners, I'm just not sure if they still
Well,
own
the
the
one
house.
on my left, but she want me to change the fence, so I said, there's a letter from you that, you gotta go through the process before I do it.
Well, I can help you find the person who owns the vacant house in the county records, so I can contact you, and we can reach that person together.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is that adjacent property to Walnut? Number 2 Walnut?
Maybe?
yeah.
Yes, I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, all right. Been vacant for a while.
Yeah, here, Chris, this is the name of the last owner. I'm not sure if they still own it. So, okay, so let's take that step of reaching out to the owner while we try to evaluate how to address the finials, the materials, things like that. But let's at least find out that you have acquiescence from the owner of that property while we figure the rest out. And can you come back to see us in December?
That'd be fine.
Does anybody else have any questions or things they'd like to ask at this point? Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
I'll just
for
get in touch
coming
with
in.
you in the next few days.
My number? Or?
I've got it.
Okay, all right, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 6, 5138 Averill Road.
Okay, I think Josh we have a picture of
So,
Okay.
do you have the information on the construction fence?
Yes.
I think that's the big item that we're being asked for. So it's a perimeter chain link fence around the site, which we presented an image, and on that chain link fence there'll be a black construction fence, and we thought that would be less intrusive than the bright orange one. It's not an interstate
Good call.
there. The intent is just to protect the work site and keep, the public from walking around. And,
So it really is just 3 sides, though it doesn't kind of wrap around the rear?
Correct.
no, you really have to.
It's just a deterrent.
To keep
Yes.
trucks, to protect the equipment and
Mhm.
what's going on over there.
There's still
Truck
enough
moving.
trees down on the site, and it's an area where we would not want people going, just from a safety perspective.
Now, I'm assuming there will be some opening and closing gates on the roadside, just as,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Where there is currently a
The lay down area.
a lay down area where a small drive area, that's where the fence will be.
Okay,
There'll be a swing gate, it'll be locking, when works on the way, it'll be open, otherwise it'll be locked. Because we're still doing our monthly stormwater inspection, so we need to access the site.
Is there any questions about the proposed
Temporary fence.
temporary fence? So temporary fence held down with sandbags, are you sinking any post cement or anything, or?
No,
No,
Okay,
no, just sits on the ground with
okay,
feet.
okay. So footed, anchored with sandbags.
Yeah, it's like a little T bracket and sits in the post, we don't want to. We don't want to get into ground.
I assumed that, but I just wanted to ask
Yes,
to make
yeah.
sure my assumption was correct.
Yeah, don't go like
Okay. Jay, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I, as you know, live on Averill Road, and I walk up and down the road a lot. I'm retired, don't have a lot to do, so I get out and nose around. And I've yet to see anybody on the property at any time.
We do inspections once a month, my engineer was there last week, so we.
are you talking pedestrian?
I'm talking about folks that have no business on that property. It's posted, no trespassing, no hunting, and I've never seen anybody that shouldn't be there.
Well, I mean, it's really a legal thing. There's nobody there now, but the point is, in the future, to prevent somebody from going onto the property. We don't want to just hang our hat on, nobody's there now, but, you know, there's piles of logs, there's water, there's obstructions, so we just want to keep our property free of liability and keep it clear.
And avoid attractive nuisance.
Yeah, not that it's gonna happen in Cooperstown, but any site in Syracuse, if it's open, someone dumps some logs, someone dumps some brush, some kid goes around wheeling in his dad's four-wheel drive and gets stuck, I mean, that happens. We wanna avoid all that.
And Chris, temporary fence doesn't need approval board members.
No, it doesn't.
Dave Strogatz, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Bernie, did you have any additional questions?
Nope.
Okay, Pat? Karen? Nope. Okay. All right. Who's brave?
I'll make that motion.
Practice
This seems
makes
like a super
perfect.
easy one. I move that the HPAR provide a certificate of, why are we
Yeah,
moving on
it
this?
doesn't really
This is a
fit any of the
temporary
criteria.
construction fence.
We are moving on it to make sure we have dotted all i's and crossed all
Okay,
t's.
so certificate of appropriateness under criteria 5.
Great. Safety. That's why we're doing it. Thank you very much.
Second.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? Okay. Liz votes yes.
David, yes.
Bernie, yes.
Great.
I'm not gonna make you.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, sorry, yes, I abstain.
Oh, okay.
Take it
Jay,
back.
would you like to vote since Dave's kind of,
I vote yes.
Nothing's
okay, great.
Thanks.
Oh,
Dave, you
you
seconded.
seconded.
Keep the heat off.
Oh, yeah, somebody else should say.
I'll
Okay,
second it.
Bernie seconded, thank you. Thank you for catching that, Marshall. He's so helpful. Even when he can't be. Okay, great, thank you very much. Now we'll look at 81 Beaver Street, if that's good for the folks who are proposing 81 Beaver Street. Oh, sorry, 1 Beaver. Sorry. I made it, you have to, I really had a cup of coffee before the meeting too. I gave it a number 8. Sorry. 1 Beaver Street.
Updated for printouts for your convenience.
Can you please say your name again? I
My name's
apologize.
Robert Shaker.
Hi,
I'm
Robert. Sorry.
working from the architectural firm Environments for Health.
Thank you.
So, what you have in front of you is a package of the first page of the large views here. That's might look familiar, but it's just an updated sheet of the proposed finished renovation of 1 Beaver Street. But what is also included that we have not seen since our last meeting is the original elevations. It's kind of yellowy due to the nature of the media it was printed on, but you can see here the house in its original form, which is pretty close to how it looks now. There's been very little change. And
Thanks, Bernie.
thank you. So that kind of gives you a sense of the proportions and the material matching was there now. And there's a question about the shutters, which we do intend to make all uniform.
But there's a sample on the table.
Yeah, they were in their original state 2 different types, one on the ground floor and one on the upper floor. But if there's no objection by your board, we'd like to make that uniform and look. Yes, like the shutter you have there. Those are paintable. They can come with a paint that would match the exact color of the house now. And they would then also be paintable in the future should someone wish to change it.
Bernie, did you need to see this before?
I know this one.
Yeah. Need to go to Jen.
So is there a problem with the existing shutters?
They're original wood and they're kind of getting on in age. You can kind of see if you look at the third page, we have existing conditions. Some of them are okay where they're up high and they haven't taken much abuse, but especially down low and around the back, some of them are starting to deteriorate and fall off their hinges. And the material we're proposing to use here will just kind of weather better. And from a distance of even, just takes 10 feet back or so, have all the appearance of a original wood shutter. And it would just make for less maintenance and keep the building looking nicer longer. And finally, these may look familiar as well. This is an updated, on the last 2 pages, you have updated rendering of the street front view. And also included now, we will have image of what it would look like from the back parking lot, looking at the rear of the house, the addition off the back.
What's that tall vertical space on the bar?
One, area
This one
one?
here, that would be enclosing a new stair tower, or well, the stairway from the first floor to the second floor. We'll have 2 of those, one on each side of the building for the both access and fire egress safety in the addition.
How is it lit?
On the interior, it would be lit with just your kind of typical wall sconces you might see inside a facility of this type. Try to keep with the character of the building and be more of a residential look than industrial. Any exterior lighting would be either.
No, I meant on the interior.
You meant on the interior? Yeah, just typical wall sconce, perhaps a ceiling sconce, just running up the stair.
Do you know what level? What candela?
I can get that for you, but I can find that information for you, but I don't have that right now. It would be within the keeping of requirements of the code for a facility of this type of daycare.
So you said there are 2 stair towers, one that's area 1. Where do we see the other one on the drawing, just out of curiosity?
It would actually be, well, you can see it better on the elevations.
And I'm just curious, since you mentioned it.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, when we reviewed Harrison House before, one of the issues that was discussed was accessibility or lack thereof and kind of
Correct.
adaptive reuse.
So off the back, that first one you were looking at.
Your assistant is coming.
This one is representative of this form here on the right. And the other one would be
Okay.
kind of on the opposite side of the building over here on the left.
And that has a window in it?
That one does. First, if it's a question of symmetry, if you'd like, it is possible to put one there. It's just that it's in an area where it would just be letting in light in. It's an area on the stair where the stair is kind of sloping up. So no one would be able to look at it from up there, but it would provide daylight in there. There are also 2 other windows on this side of that mass that are letting light in, and then they're in an area where someone, if they were out there, could view out at the top of the landing.
Do you think it was just the sheer massing of that wall without a window? Is that what you were kind of? Yeah.
With the silent.
They have also a question about the scale of the windows on the rear. They seem really, so they seem really short and not proportional, I think, to the second floor of the building. And they do seem more proportional in the original drawings. So I'm just curious as to why those windows are shaped the way they are. Is there some interior reason for that?
The use and kids and stuff like that, or?
There is certainly the consideration of where the sill height is at, but we were also trying to kind of match the size of some of these windows that actually do exist that run around the other side of this building as you were to come around this corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say we can't change the proportions of that to something more.
Is there an interior, excuse me, is there an interior reason that those windows are as short as they are? I mean, is there something going on inside that precludes having the windows come down a little further?
They can certainly come down further. Yeah, they're almost at the top, as high as they can rise, because the framing of the ceiling is not too high above that, but they could come down lower.
Does that have something to do with the original windows on that these are squat there, or
Yeah,
in terms of the thinking of making those also squat, for a lack of a better word?
well, correct, yeah, you can kind of see on this elevation here and here, kind of the size of those windows.
And I think the proportion looks different because they're, on the rear, we have a gable end to the front.
Yeah.
Or the rear, I guess, as opposed to a shed. You know, you're not looking at the slope of the roof.
It just, it does sit differently on the bigger wall.
I mean, because this is the rear of the building, we can't make design suggestions.
Right.
It's not required, because this is an addition, not required that it look like the rest of the building.
I understand what you're saying, that if
Yeah.
it behooves the people inside to have a bigger window, that might be an option.
Right,
Right.
you don't, yeah.
And it is the rear facing, it's not the street
Right, it's the
facing.
rear, because it's the rear facing elevation,
Yeah,
you can be more flexible in your.
Every possible effort to maximize the window.
Yeah.
If that's
Rob,
desired.
there are classrooms back there, correct? So part of the concern, I think, too, that we want to look at as far as the potential of if we have bigger windows, tempered glass, et cetera. So I think, from an interior perspective, we would need to review that classroom and determine if that was appropriate or not.
You only need tempered glass if the sill height is too low. But the other thing I wanted to mention about this particular elevation is that those quarter round, not louvers and not windows are not in keeping with the original structure because they don't appear to have a function. Is that true? Are they ventilation?
The attic will need to be ventilated, and if they aren't used for a mechanical ventilation, the intent would be that would function as an attic vent.
Okay,
You
if it
can
has,
see a few of them.
if it has a function, that's fine.
So
It's just that the.
On the new one, on the new
Right.
section.
Yeah.
The way those original quarter round louvers appear, right? Those on other houses built at the same time in the same style in the village, those are actually windows. And so on this particular building, they replace those windows with louvers, and they always flank something. So they're flanking the chimney here, and in the new component of this building, they don't flank anything. So it looks really not in context. They're lacking some context.
A purpose.
Well, again, the purpose would be to function as an actual attic vent, but
Right,
the
but
shape can be.
Right, they don't have to be
Modified.
shaped, they don't have to be shaped like that.
It could be a single vent with one continuous arc if you wanted something like that, seeing as how we don't have any
Right.
existing chimney here. It also Aesthetically, it's a way to break up that mass
big-
you were
Mhm.
referring to earlier,
Right.
the larger face. So you can definitely take that under consideration.
And as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to look like the rest of the building because it is a new component.
But if there is a purpose for them. Okay, did you have any other questions?
I'd like to reemphasize Aaron's point about the overall height of those upper windows. They, to me, I mean, I'm old enough to see them on the beach at Normandy or something like that. They're just, they're a little slit for my taste. I mean, it's and if it were possible, taking into consideration energy efficiency as well, if it were possible to drop them some, I think, I mean,
Or
just
raise
in the
them.
office sketching it on.
And I think one of the things that kind of begs in the design for elongating the upper windows is the fact the style of shutters used on the lower windows is kind of saying elongate the upper windows to me. I think that contrast is what's kind of calls it out even more. But I'm just trying to figure out why it's kind of not sitting right too. Again, we don't design.
Right.
So
But it is
and
more
this-
helpful for us to comment than say,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. We
And
appreciate
this
any
is
comments.
the rear-facing portion of an
Yeah.
addition. So comments are what they are, right?
Mhm.
Any other thoughts, Pat? Bernie, did you have any?
I was concerned about the matching of the older part with the newer part, that, to me, it seemed that maybe they were a bit, for lack of a better word, fighting each other, or a bit forced on each other to some extent. And I wasn't sure if there was somebody had an idea that might help me feel better about the matching of the two. I'm not sure whether the texture of the shingles versus the flat of the original part maybe adds to that busyness, but obviously it's a functional building, and so I can certainly understand how there would be a certain degree of mismatch between the two. Were you gonna say something?
I'm glad you brought that up. If I bring up here, the existing front of the building, there is a difference of materials from I guess you could call it the main house where the residents once lived, and then they had more of like a servant's quarters here, where as it currently exists, there is like a wood frieze above, and then the shake wood siding, and then on the other side, the stone and the vertical board. So actually try to simplify the palette a little bit.
Taking one texture out?
Yeah, and just being that the volumes of the house kind of step back and change there, it is an opportunity to, it's like a logical spot to change the material from the vertical board and stone to the shake, which is primarily what the rest of the house is clad.
Okay, people who have lived here long enough, do we remember that Harrison House was painted a dark green for a long, long time? And maybe, do you remember when it was dark
Was that
green?
not the house next to Harrison House?
Oh, was the house that was?
Yeah, it's the house that was
That was
Yeah, I think
demolished.
it's black, actually.
Thank
It's
you,
Flanagan.
yeah.
It's the Flanagan property.
Right, thank you. I'm just keep picturing this house as dark green because I'm remembering that house. Okay, and I was gonna say maybe it didn't stand out as much when it was dark green, but it was a different house. Okay.
I have one other question. Is there, and this is a big question, is there a way in your redesign and thinking about what happens in the space and how the building and the full property will be used to make fewer modifications to the street-facing elevation and more modifications to the rear-facing elevation? I mean, the addition of the dormers and the dormers do not exist, correct? No. I'm just wondering if there's a way to be a little bit more sensitive about the street-facing elevation of this property and still get what you need out of it, knowing that the rear does not necessarily need to be designed as a colonial structure or a colonial revival structure. There's just not a lot of the original character of the building remaining after these changes are in
Bernie,
place.
can you hold up the other one, excuse me, Erin, the one, yes.
To address the question, we have made every effort we can to try to fit the client's program, primarily in the back of the building. There are some elements that would need to be in the front, and hence the front of the dormers providing light to the rooms upstairs.
And ceiling height.
The possibility could be a more bungalow style, but we can examine how that looks, but feel the character of the building is more in keeping with the dormer. There aren't any dormers off the front end as it currently exists, but there's one or two small ones off the back, and that's why the decision was made to go with that style.
Bungalow refers to
Where if we were to look at this large, the front view again, rather than having three peaks, you might have just a wall across with the shed roof.
Yeah. I feel
But it would make a shallower roof, which would not be in keeping with the steeper slope of the existing building. And it would make for a larger mass up top there.
I feel like you get more usable space out of a shed. A single shed that goes all the way across the front.
That's what I was
than
gonna say,
you would get out of
did
three
you try
dormers.
a shed roof
We can, yeah,
with three? I mean, it'll give you more space for one thing. And it will it'll take away that hodgepodge of little peaks. I'm sorry, hodgepodge.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
It's very tricky.
Pat, were you gonna say something in addition to that? I know you raised your hand just as he was.
That's what I raised my hand about,
Okay,
was
okay.
to look at it as a shed as opposed to peaks.
The other reason I like that idea is because the original, rear door next to the two garages was just a little shed covering. It was not a gabled, what do you call the thing that goes, my words are not in there
I
today.
understand.
Yes, so it's just a little shed. Because there's no gable front on this building. There's no gable end to this, there's no gable end to the street. And I feel like, you see what I'm talking about right there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It can be tried, certainly. And if it please, we can provide you an updated elevation of that, but we did favor the gable, just given that there was some historical context on the back, not the front, and just thought it would be nicer to have more of the roof visible, so that it wasn't such a tall vertical that I think it may start to appear if we try that bungalow style. We can maybe break that up a little by setting the upper floor back a little bit so that the eave of the roof can run in front of it. But you'd still have a much, it would be this slide. You'd have a shallower roof kind of kicking out towards the front of your building rather than
If you're willing to explore that, I think if, if we can kind of think about that, if it had been something we are not here to redesign for you, but if it had been something you had been looking at, and it's reflective of the original design, it may take away a little bit of the intense busyness of that front section with the 3 dormers, and it just feels like they are competing, as Bernie said. There's a little bit of tension there between the 2 sections. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about other elevations, other concerns they want to kind of put out there?
I have a question just based on curiosity. These three pictures, I wasn't sure what they're.
These are just other buildings around the town, just showing some other different architectural vocabulary.
I had the same question, Bernie.
I'm sorry?
I had the same question.
Yeah.
What was the year of Harrison House? What's the year it was built?
I didn't,
Late 30s.
Late 30s.
37 or 38.
Okay.
oh, I was just.
Okay, so the house on Nelson is probably the closest to that era then.
Yeah, there's many other structures in Cooperstown that are built right around the same time as Harrison House. I don't know if this, 1934.
Jay, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Dave, I know you've recused yourself, but do you have anything to
I do not.
add to the conversation? Okay. Any other thoughts?
I would point out that even though we don't design, the fact that it is attached to a historic building brings in more concern about going with something that.
Especially with the street facing, it does not have to look historic, but the kind of
Massing and.
yeah, and relative cohesion. I still will applaud this project. I'm delighted to see the adaptive reuse of this building, and it's serving a much needed purpose for both the hospital and the community. So, and I think overall the design is a good one, considering the things you have to take into consideration when dealing with a childcare center. If you are able to kind of think about some of our comments and make adjustments if you feel appropriate. Kendra, I don't know if you can speak to the timing of where you're at in this process and kind of decision-wise, what your kind of goals are.
We were hoping for HR approval tonight. Planning board will be back in front of planning board next Tuesday night. We were hoping to start demolition in January, interior, and then site as soon as weather breaks, March or whatever the winter looks like.
Okay, so if you got a conceptual approval to a certain point, what would hinder you from starting demolition in January if you don't have HPRB approval tonight?
From an interior perspective, probably nothing, because we wouldn't be touching the exterior at all, from that perspective.
Okay, so if we are asking for some of our comments to be taken into consideration, and we don't design for our applicants or considerations about these comments, you know, we certainly want to see this project move forward, yet if there is still time to look at potential modifications in the exterior design and not hold the interior demolition that you're looking at up, if we could revisit this in December, if there are some modifications then, if there's anything to present.
Is it something where we can look to see what the possibilities are, and if it's not feasible from a design perspective, that I could let somebody know?
We can certainly.
Before coming, you know, before
Yeah.
waiting until December, if that would be possible.
I was thinking as well, if it is possible to get us the information, if you do come up with a design as soon as possible so that we can start mulling it over, then that way we can get
And
it
if
started.
it's not feasible to make changes, to let us know as well.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think because you can move forward with the work you want to do in January, if you can kind of go back and regroup and decide whether you're going to stick with the design as presented or
Yeah,
integrate
we can take a look at it.
any of the feedback into a future presentation, and then let us know, and we can address it in December formally within the meeting, with or without another presentation, if you're not making changes. Does that make sense to everybody?
Is there anything else besides the design of that front area that needs to be reviewed, or is there anything else? The shutters, I think we were okay with.
I would like to see the shutters stay in the same 2 configuration as exists now, where the louvers on the top and the solid on the bottom.
If that, you know, and I realize this is extreme, but if the original shutters could be preserved, at least kept, if all of them are being replaced for uniformity and maintenance, if the hospital is able to maintain somewhere the original shutters, that would be ideal. We often ask applicants to take the original material if they're being replaced and hold it.
This building still requires paint maintenance even after so I think asking for the shutters to remain if they can be repaired is not a hardship.
At least,
Because there's many other surfaces that require paint maintenance, this is not the only one.
so if there are sections,
Yeah,
especially.
we'll have to take I don't know if there's any that are rotting, I know they're definitely I mean, are they original?
Yeah.
They're,
I believe they are.
yeah.
And
We
that
can
would,
certainly take a look to see if they're salvageable.
it would be ideal. We've asked many other property owners to do the same. And especially if they are salvageable and able to be used in the sections of the building that are visible from the street, the front and the side, that would be great.
I mean, you have extra shutters that are gonna come off the back of the house and other parts of the house, so maybe from all the shutters that exist, you can assemble, enough shutters to maintain the front and west elevation. I'm not looking at the elevation.
One
Street,
concern
yes.
might be the material, paint, lead paint, stuff like that, being a daycare, there may be restrictions there, we have to look into it.
Oh, it's exterior, so it's, and you can encapsulate it.
Right, and it wouldn't be any different than any of the other likely lead paint that salvage shutters for 246 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 openings.
10 maybe?
I think it's just 9.
Okay, because yes, the upper windows don't have,
Right.
okay.
The front and the side windows.
Right, the west facing side.
An achievable goal.
Yeah.
Off
Yeah.
the addition, we
Right.
need to try to match the new, we could, we may
Unders-
be able to salvage some of the
Right, because then you can use,
the larger ones out back, if they are in fact salvageable, but we may need to change them.
right, I think because the rear of the structure is essentially gonna be entirely new, and asking you to put the historic shutters on the new structure is a bit
That's, yes,
silly.
but
But if you can salvage enough to keep them on the 2 elevations that are relatively
scathed in
Yeah.
terms of the addition,
Yeah.
that would be ideal.
Right.
Okay.
It's just 9 openings.
Thank you for working with us, and people are comfortable with the feedback moving forward, and
So.
if some of these concerns are addressed, nobody sees a problem with addressing this again in December.
As long as they know.
Good. Thank you.
Did you want to see the site plans? Last time you said you wanted to see the site plans. I can go home.
Sure. You're here. You made the trip.
Yes, we want to see the site plans.
Thank you.
I'm very excited.
Right. I'll say the engineering drawing for starters. Well, we'll start with the components. Here's the house, Harrison House, entry addition, rear addition. We have an existing fire lane in the front, which we intend to maintain and have to for code. The front lawn area, we're gonna remove the plant material, put in a playground area, and we're gonna put in trees. I'll show you the planting plan in a minute. There's some perimeter walls on the back and sides of the building. That's so we can provide egress to both sides of the building. This retaining wall hits the side of the new addition and wraps around the building. There'll be a stone veneer, which architecturally will pull through onto the site wall. So it'll be the same material on the building, and it'll pull through on the back, and there'll be a safety railing, and the railing will match. It'll be a wrought iron railing to match what's out on the street, but it'll be code compliant. It's not gonna be 6 feet tall. It's gonna be, 3'6", 42 inches. That should be 36 inches on a 6-inch curb. The wall's gonna have a stone veneer on the building. It'll pull through, and on the top of the wall, there'll be a bluestone capstone with a little drip edge, and the wrought iron, 4-foot, 3-foot pipe wrought iron. Fence will be on those 2 sides, and most importantly, how does this work? You have an entrance, an exit, so parents will come in, drive around. There's 4 spaces here to drop off. The parents walk in the walk across this drive, check the kid in, they're inside, then the parent leaves. It's not shown very clearly, but this playground area is totally fenced in, so during the daytime when the kids are at the facility, it'll be totally fenced. So after all the kids are dropped off, they do what they have to do, and then for outdoor playtime, they come outside. The gates will be secured. There's a pedestrian gate on each side of the walk in the front, and 2 vehicular gates. So they can come play in the playground, be totally monitored, and then come back in. And that'll be a 4-foot height chain wrought iron fence to match. I think it's 6 foot here. You got the stone columns at each entrance here, the fencing, and the existing hedge here and here. So it's really minimal impact. The reason we put the playground equipment up the hill a little bit is because we needed to hit the grade to get it up there. This is kind of a sloped area. All the lighting would remain the same. I think we have to move 1 light pole over to accommodate the gate. And I think you have just one additional wall pack on the outside, so it'll be, like Rob said, it'll be dark sky compliant. We'll have the shield, we'll have all the detail on that. And then we have 4 areas where the parents can come in and leave, and then we have 1 extra area where people can come over. drop a kid off and leave. So we have 5 spaces. The perimeter of the facility would remain. It is a very old building. Infrastructure needs to be upgraded. Fire code. I think we said domestic water. Now we're putting in a new 4-inch line for fire protection. So that would go in this way. And then we talked about the age of the sanitary pipe. We're gonna scope it. We're like, it's got to be ancient. We're just gonna replace it. That'll probably come in straight because you put too many bends in it, you're not gonna get gravity work anymore. The playground area is a walk, natural lawn, and then a lot of times you see bright rubber surfacing or the playground mulch, and then there's a newer option. It's artificial turf with it's green grass.
Is that the same as you're doing at the top of the hill? 'Cause I think you talked about.
Yeah, I talked about it last
artificial
time,
turf,
artificial
yeah.
turf with
Yeah.
so it's gonna look like green grass, it'll be green longer than any other grass, unless Bob can keep up with it. So, but anyway, it'll be a lower impact. You know, we're trying to keep shrubs to a minimum because you want to have visibility in the playground, so these are just blow-offs that we're working on. You know, there's, you know, what it looks like. And here's, actually, before I show you the planting plan, here's the parking lot, there's the stacked stone veneer, there's a bluestone cap, and then you have your wrought iron fence, and then there'll be a concrete walk, and then the building will be here, and then the parking lot is down below over there.
Every single kid is gonna wanna hang on that fence and walk on the top of that wall.
Well, the walls, we're not doing
Yeah.
pickets, so if they get up there, they won't get it. It's a 4-foot high wall, so
Yeah.
there's gotta be some parental supervision at some point.
Sure, sometimes,
At
yeah.
some point. And then really the planting plan, we're not totally done with it, but we're just gonna put three shade trees there, and we're gonna put 3 shade trees here, probably have a 4th one over here. And then we're gonna maintain that existing hedge, and there's a gap between the playground and the hedge. We're gonna put a low maintenance spreading material here. It's just gonna be long, because it's all about visibility and repaving. So that's really it for right now. But in terms of materials, if you're looking at the stone veneer wall, you're looking at to match what's in your community. A wrought iron fence, which is gonna match what's there. We're working with the same guy that everybody works with.
Just call it the Bassett fence.
The Bassett fence, yeah.
It's gonna be the
And then
Bassett.
asphalt's asphalt, concrete's concrete. We're using, we're gonna replace the granite curb. And the playground will have a model in colors or in selection, so that's really where we're going, so. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us that we asked for
Yes.
that. I apologize.
I'm so excited about daycare.
We do need it.
So many questions.
And I'm excited about the what's being done with the building, so thank you. And we appreciate your willingness to consider ways to respond to the comments. So thank you very much. And we will hear from you, Kendra, and move forward next month. Okay?
One more comment.
Yes.
Would it be possible to get a little bit more information on the portico, on the existing, the older part, the stone part, the front there, just a type of stone or some images of what's existing? Or what's proposed? I say right this guy here, in terms of compared to like the original deal. Is that?
That would be the original. Our intent there would be
Oh, okay,
to
so
preserve the original
preserve
appearance.
Great.
Okay.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay. That takes us to 40 Elm Street. Would you like to have a seat?
I was just going to help you.
40 Elm Street? No?
Right, I thought that was 40 Elm.
I know.
Because I was surprised.
The way he was
because
moving forward, I was like.
Because 40 Elm, from the beginning, had an engagement he couldn't get out of and couldn't make it tonight. And just I want to give a few notes, if we
Sure.
if we can review it.
That's fine.
Who would want to find out for what property
Yes.
are you all here?
52 Chestnut.
Okay,
Oh,
why don't we will, have you been here the whole time and did we think Terry wasn't coming? So I apologize. We bumped you down because we didn't think anybody was here for 52 Chestnut. So why don't we talk to you now? I apologize. Next time, beat up the people from the hospital next time. Come on up and have a seat, please.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? So, Marcia, when she is ready, will ask you for your names, so that can go to the minutes.
Absolutely. My name's Antonino Santoro.
Anthony?
Yep, Santoro. From Home Depot. I'm the sales manager for all of the Albany stores and all of the Syracuse stores, including Cooperstown. I've been here before, and the customer purchased 3 windows. They're on the driveway side, 2 bedrooms and 1 stairwell. And we're here for approval, basically.
So, tell us about the windows, the materials, vinyl, correct?
It is, it's a Simonton 65, which, the reason why we went with that, in the home, there is vinyl already installed, and it fits what she already has. We did match the grids 2 and 2. It is a 0.28 U factor on the window, so it meets code, and it exceeds code, actually. There are 2 panes of low E, argon gas, all the good stuff that comes with a vinyl. It is a window that is 3.5 inches in frame, so it's not a vinyl window that is contemporary.
Do you have any samples or examples of it?
Yeah.
I have those spec sheets.
We have the spec
Yeah, we have the
sheets.
spec
Okay.
I mean, do you have a physical
You have it?
cutaway?
I have the colored ones. I can bring in a colored one.
If you have one, it would be helpful if it's the same,
Sorry about that.
no, if it's the same window, just with a
Same
color,
window, same window.
that would be helpful. Chris?
Just if I could add, the applicant asked me to go to the property and to examine the other windows, to tell us what they're comprised of. And the window directly above is a vinyl window with interior grids, not
Not between the ground.
as well as the windows in the front are the same, and the downstairs 2 windows here are the existing
Original.
old window, but she just wanted to bring that up, that it's not that we're dealing with all historical windows replacing with vinyl. There've already been changes to the great majority of them upstairs, and of course the windows all in the back are not in the period. The addition is in the 80s, and they're so really, yeah, these ones are old and crumbling, and the 2 in the front here are as well, but they're not being replaced in this proposal. Just to give you some context about the work.
Did you say you looked at the ones above the door on the front, the 2nd floor windows on the front?
Yes. I took photos of them all. I'm sorry I didn't include them, I just swung by recently, but you can see there, these kind of interior grid windows. And it's sort of familiar to everyone who's seen these kind of vinyl windows with interior grids.
Your colleague is going to bring us the cutaway to take a look at. The grids are not between the glass, correct?
The grids are between the glass.
Are between the glass.
Yes.
And so, Chris, you're saying in the other windows, they're not grids between the glass,
I'm
they're
sorry.
either interior or?
They are, the grids are between the glass and the existing windows that have been replaced already, which is the majority of them.
So we matched what's in the home now. Yes,
So you're proposing 6/6, that's what's on the,
correct.
So just for clarity for the minutes, you want to replace original 12/12, 9/9 sash with
Thank you.
vinyl 6/6 sash.
Correct. Driveway side, 3 windows. The listed house,
So, I'm sorry, Pat.
the listed house.
Yes.
Yep, it's in.
And, Chris, you said the windows that are being replaced are already replacement windows?
No, I'm sorry, the ones that are being replaced are old and crumbling. And also just want to point out, as far as trying to match the grid style of the home, we've got, some of these windows are 6/6, we've got some that are 9/9.
But then, if these are original windows, they're 9/9. And then the ones on the front that are original, the first floor windows are 9/9 as
Yes.
well? Struggle because that, first of all, I don't know if you've read our window guidelines.
Actually, I have.
Yeah.
And the only reason we're going with what we're going with is because it's already in the home.
The same window is already in the home?
Yeah,
Or the
they're
exact
vinyl,
same,
they're
well, the vinyl, but the window you're citing, is that the same or?
Not make, but same
Material.
material.
There's a structure in the back that was built that also has vinyl windows.
Well, that is not a contributing part of property, so that doesn't, this is.
Okay, yeah.
But you're saying it looks very similar,
Very
the
similar.
different make, but
Correct.
it's very similar.
Correct.
Yeah, the window that was replaced on the second floor, isn't that like,
Yeah.
someone replaced the window, they don't look the same.
He went through.
Okay, yeah. But these, that, when we measured, we did the grids the same way, the colonial pattern.
I'm just not moving my chair.
You're fine, don't worry.
You're
You're good. So I have several concerns. First of all, our window guidelines, specifically say. Now, the fact that vinyl was added to this house could have been before the Historic Preservation Board was in existence, could have been before we had those window guidelines. But we are also looking at intact, in terms of original windows on the house, the 3 you're looking at replacing, and then there are 2 original windows on the first floor on the front. And you're making an argument to me that the reason we should allow the replacement of these windows with vinyl is because vinyl's already been installed. So next month, somebody can come and say, vinyl's already been installed, so let's put vinyl on the front. When we have windows that could potentially be restored, it is kind of the viral vinyl thing. She did have permission to replace these with a product that was not vinyl a few years ago, correct? I know she's come to us with a lot of requests. So I'm getting a lot of things kind of conflated, I apologize.
Originally, she was approved for using Anderson 400 windows for these 3 windows. And as she explained, the price went up when COVID happened, and she held off thinking maybe the price would go back down, but the price didn't go back down. Hence her thought that maybe this would be a more cost-effective solution.
Thank you, sir.
And she mentioned to me that the Anderson windows that she got approval for had no grids, which I don't, that's what she asked me to price for her when I gave her that price. And I was trying to match the house because I just thought that was the right thing to do.
So something that would match the house would have 9/9 dimensional grids. True divided or simulated divided lights, not a grid between the glass. I understand the argument you're making that there are some already in place like this. I'm not sure, Chris, if you looked into the file to see if any of those approvals happened under HPEB or not, but.
It was 2021.
Well, the approval of the Andersons, correct?
Anderson, yes.
Yeah, so that was post-COVID actually, right? 2021, yeah.
Right, she did mention COVID, I see your point,
Borderline.
yes, in the wake of COVID.
Yeah.
And she, I guess her argument, she noted that the Andersons, when she first was approved, only cost $3,000, and she claims that now the same windows would cost $7,500 to do that job.
I did
For all
not,
three of them?
That's what
Okay.
she has claimed in a message to us.
Jay, do you have any questions? Bernie, do you have any questions?
No.
Dave, do you have any questions?
I do not. So we don't have any history about HPAR and its role or no role in the replacement of the second floor windows?
Well, we know that they approved in 2021 the Anderson 400s.
So
For the first floor, for these three windows.
yeah, but
Chris-
what had been replaced on the second floor, we don't know when that happened, if that happened, yeah.
There's just been a lot of activity with this house, so I'm getting a lot completed over the years. There was a flourish of activity around the building in the back, which you referenced. And she had come to us for a number of things along the way that I'm not sure ever got done or not. So, Pat, in the meantime, do you have any questions? I would just love to
Not
flip
really
through the file.
questions.
Well, feel free.
No.
I have a question, those originals that were approved, what was the style in terms of?
Well, that's why I asked Chris to pull the file, so we can look at that.
The pane, what was
Yeah,
the?
I would suspect we approved 9/9. So on March 9th, 2021, 9/9 double hung windows, Anderson 400 series. So
And then the divides were interior?
they would have been dimensional on both sides. So it wasn't a divided light, but it would have been a simulated divided light where the grills were on both sides and they were dimensional, so they were appropriately sized. Does that make sense?
I think so.
It's basically one sheet of glass with muntins on both sides. It's no sandwich.
So big change.
Uh-huh.
And the Andersons are wood and paintable as well.
Sorry, I just wanted to refresh my memory because there has been a lot of activity here. Permission was given to build that garage in 2019. Okay, so they were, looks like window changes were made in 1998. So that was,
Just preceded it.
Pardon me?
Just preceded it, didn't
Yes. Preceded the Historic Preservation Board.
That date again was?
1998, and 99,
It was a different owner.
yes, different owner. I think there've been 2 different owners in that time period, before, from what I can tell, at least one. So with 5 intact windows, and did you look at the north-facing side too of that first floor, Chris, to determine what the window composition was on that?
I look at my photos here. I'm sorry, I can't tell from my notes, like the windows, the upstairs windows I know are on the north side of vinyl replacements, but downstairs window.
You don't have fun?
I don't recall what we were looking at, the downstairs window on that side.
Is Terry living in town in the house?
No.
No, she's not here.
No, she's in, I believe, Wisconsin.
Yes.
So Simonton is the cheaper, is the cheaper option?
Well, I mean, compared to the Anderson.
And the Anderson,
But
it's
it's
just
the
Simon.
top of the line for the.
Gotcha. I shouldn't use the word cheap, less expensive, sorry.
Yeah.
More economical.
More economical.
There we go.
The, does Simonton have, the 9/9 option with the
Stimulated
dividers?
No.
Simulated divided
It would
lights?
be, I can do 9/9, but it won't be stimulated.
You can do 9/9, you said.
Yes.
Just doing a little research, excuse me.
Is there, was there a reason why the 9/9 wasn't proposed?
I don't think the customer wanted it. I think it's a bedroom and they want to see out.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's a lot of,
It's
a lot of
like- it's like
dividers.
jail, you know?
It's not a bedroom.
It's not a bedroom?
No, I don't think so, no, that's,
But in general, I mean,
no, maybe it is, right. One, two.
Yeah, I have it as bedroom one, and hallway.
Hallway.
Yeah, one of the windows is at the bottom of the stairs, and the other 2 were in that, like
Yes.
a
I understand.
walk-through
Okay.
bedroom.
I was mistaken it for the addition, I see what you're saying.
I know that the owner's argument is for economical reasons that they would like to replace the windows with this product. However, a lot of investment has been made in this house, and I really think that the investment in either maintaining these windows by restoring them, the remaining first floor windows that are original, or going with a product that's made out of more appropriate materials, which they've been approved for, would be my preference. I do not think that installing vinyl windows because there are already vinyl windows on the house is an appropriate argument with this. And that's my 2 cents. If anybody would like to make a motion in terms of this item otherwise, they may feel free to, but I have real grave concerns about this request.
I'm
You
abstaining.
said you had no serious concern?
I have grave concerns about this request.
Glad to clarify that.
Yes, sorry. I don't think, you know, it is viral vinyl. Just because somebody was approved 30 years ago does not mean that we should continue to chip away at the historic fabric of this house. And especially when the owner has made some pretty significant investments in the property. I don't think the argument about saving money, a few $100s on a house that's on the market for over $700,000 is a justifiable argument.
This is a lifetime product, though, it is vinyl. I get it.
It's the guidelines, it's the historic district,
I get it.
and it's doing justice to a significant house with original windows on a major thoroughfare with a side that's very visible from the street as well as the front. I mean, there are just a lot of boxes to kind of check and consider here.
Plus the original windows have already been in the house for almost 200 years, so they've got multiple lifetimes. Guaranteed for multiple lifetimes.
Just a little TLC goes a long way. So the owner did have approval to install a different product, and we were willing to compromise with that, but personally, I would not vote to compromise with vinyl product.
So is that the decision of the board?
If somebody would like to make a motion, we can do a vote and see what the decision of the board is, or the owner can withdraw the application.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I cannot move.
I could give it a
We have an abstention.
I'm sorry.
We have one abstention, I said. But go ahead, Bernie.
I move that HR not provide a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 52 Chestnut Street on the basis, feel free to help me out here.
Yeah, they don't reflect the window guidelines of the Village of Cooperstown, and that more appropriate windows have already been approved. How's that?
Thank you, stole the words out of my mouth.
So we'll go back to the customer, and we'll let them know that, and we'll also let them know that the product of innocent 400 is approved.
It was approved. Let me check the date on that certificate.
It says March 2021.
Okay, so March 2021, so we do regularly update approvals of previous approvals, so all she would need to do was request an extension.
Exactly.
Thank you for knowing that, Dave, and Chris took care of you there. But the board could be asked to extend that, and we generally do not turn down requests for extension on approvals.
However, I would say that extensions are not automatically granted either.
No, I understand.
Yes, so
Yeah.
return at the
We'll
December
file
meeting.
for a permit and an extension.
Well,
We're gonna get them.
there is no need for a new permit fee, is there?
No,
You can just request an extension of that permit.
We have a company that does that.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll go to the customer, we'll let them know that the 400s are on the table.
Do we need a vote on Bernie's?
Yes, we should, I'm sorry, do we have any discussion, and then we can explain how that process works, thank you.
Is there a second?
Yes, Pat seconded. Okay, so Jay would like you to vote, Aaron is abstaining, so Liz votes yes on Bernie's motion.
David, yes.
Pat, yes.
Bernie, yes.
Jay, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so you can go through your company,
Yep.
speak to the owner,
We will.
and if you would like that permit to be extended, please let Chris know, and he'll put it on the agenda for the meeting after that.
Is there
Thank you for your
anything
time.
is there anything you want to clarify in terms of letting the owner know why,
Listen,
why the,
No, we sell a lot of windows. We know how it works.
okay.
It's not like, I'm just a local guy trying to get a window, like, we sell thousands of windows.
So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, we appreciate your time, and I'm sorry we didn't realize you were waiting
And
for
I'm sorry, when she said she
52.
wasn't coming, I didn't register that
Well, I
you were
would
here instead, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, they should have signed it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Thanks
much.
for getting that out of the vehicle so we can see it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Okay, so we still have to talk about 72 Fair Street, correct?
Yes, and 40 Elm, yes.
Okay, so 72 Fair Street, I think this is a pretty straightforward application, matching asphalt shingles on the garage to match the house instead of the metal material that's on the garage.
Such cool metal material.
You know, we'll let it go, right? And not visible from the street. Does anybody have concerns about the change in material? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on 72 Fair Street?
Sure.
Thanks, Dave.
I'll move that HPAR provide a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 72 Fair Street under criteria 2C, 3C, and 3D.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Pat. Any discussion? Any more eulogy to the metal roof burning?
Yeah.
No.
You should see it before it goes.
There are some beautiful metal roofs, I agree. Liz votes yes.
David, yes.
Burn, yes.
Thank you.
Aaron, yes.
Did you have hesitation?
No, I don't, I was just,
Yeah.
I was doing eye communication. Jamming about whether or not he was gonna vote.
Okay.
We all need to abstain.
All right, 72 Fair Street.
We just did that.
Oh, sorry. I really had coffee before I came to the meeting, because I was not gonna.
You get goofy at the end of the night.
Yeah, I do.
I could open this in the market, but man,
Please.
because I've talked to the owner about this. For one, he's not completing this project, not starting until spring. So we have a very early application, and you know, he would be fine to come in if we need to. He's not showing up because out of disdain, he was very eager to present his case, and he wanted us to know that you know, it's a replacement of wood with wood, and the product he found, which shows, you know, it's a 6-foot product, he intends to cut it down, so the fence is only 5 feet tall. The current fence varies a little from 5 to 6 feet, so he wanted us to know that it wouldn't be any taller, in fact, it would be a little bit shorter.
So I have a pretty basic question. The pictures supplied make me think that this fence goes to the gray house, but in fact, the applicant address is the greenhouse?
Yes.
So the greenhouse is the owner of the fence and the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. And it's just this teeny little fence in the corner?
We're also behind, right, if you look at this photo, we've got the fence.
Okay, it goes all the way behind the
Goes back
property?
there.
So it goes behind that garage carport scenario?
So this is the backyard.
Okay.
Right, it's
So
not,
I guess I was also confused by these photographs.
Yeah.
Because it is the bad side is facing the neighbor.
The photographs don't show the owner's house at all.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Because I walked over there, I was trying to figure out,
right.
this fence is in relation to what? So, this is the backyard.
Yeah.
And for this one, that cover, the driveway,
Right.
that's the driveway of the owner's house. So the
Yeah.
owner's house is to the left,
Right,
and it's a very nice old house. So that this little fence, you know, goes along the side of the driveway and then goes behind that garage to the backyard.
Uh-huh.
And that's and then there's a little bit of it
So is
along
there like
the
a
other
little
side.
return
Yeah,
on the
so,
other side?
so this picture really is
Yeah.
unhelpful.
Yes, it's showing it in the context of the neighbor. how it affects the
There's like
neighborhood.
another neighbor on the other side, right? And we don't have any context about the other neighbor.
Yeah.
So I guess I would like.
A drawing of where
Yeah.
the fence is
Yeah.
gonna be.
A drawing of the fence and better pictures that show the context in relation to the property.
And if it's even
Not
with
the
5
people.
feet, even if it's replacing it, do they, because it's over 4 feet, do we still need some comment from the
No.
neighbors?
If we're making, it's a new fence, but if we're replacing in kind, I mean, if you were replacing with the same material exactly, you wouldn't be here at all. I asked him to come because the material he showed, you know,
Is different.
It doesn't have the decorative quality.
doesn't,
Right, but as
no.
far as I think he didn't show us the footprint because it's not changing it at all.
Well, and do we know that's actually their fence? I mean, the thing that really threw me is that it is the bad unfinished side to the neighbor, which, you know, is that actually a fence that,
That, the white fence is the owner's fence.
Yeah.
That's, well, it's on the owner's property.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, having
It's just-
better
it's-
pictures and drawings would help a
it's
lot.
just so weird because that house is so definitely late 70s avocado, and everything about that house is late 70s avocado, and I was shocked that this fence was also not late 70s avocado.
The existing fence.
Right.
Yeah.
like,
it's so late 70s, that house. It's just really.
70s and a late 1800s kind of way.
Right, it's like very, I'm gonna make my colonial house extra colonial because it's colonial, it's, you know, 1976. Surely this house could be more historical than it is, and paint it green. Yeah, it's weird that the good side is facing the property owner and the fence is white, and, I mean, that, it's fine, it just, like, this was a really difficult application for me to understand.
Because,
It just throws you because we don't see the
Oh,
property.
okay.
We don't know what the property lines are, so we don't know how much fence wants to be replaced. And I kept saying, wait, that's not the owner of the house we're looking at.
Right.
That's what was just kind of driving me nuts.
but given all that information, does anybody have any qualms with the type of fence that's replacing this?
I guess, especially with the height, we would need consent from the neighboring property owners.
Well, if it's an already existing fence and it's in.
But this is a different style. I mean, it is a different style. It doesn't have those little cutouts. There is some gentle, or some spacing in a sense. It isn't as solid a fence. So even though it's the same material, there are stylistic differences. And I think it's appropriate, given that kind of massing that this dense fence will have, especially at a height above 4 feet, to be considerate and seek the consent of the neighbors, and then determine if this looks like, it's a treated fence, so do they plan to paint it or not? Even though it says it's Gothic, I don't think it really is.
It's just pointy.
So kind of, we do need a map of where they're going to put it on the property in some context of their property, reminding them that they need to have the unfinished side in. And I think it's fair to seek consent of the neighbors who are gonna look at a different fence if it's above 5 feet.
Were you concerned about any blowback from the owner saying, you know, what right do you have to require me to get the neighbor's permission since it's?
Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, really, this applicant was very kind and he gathered what information he could, and since he couldn't be here, it seemed between us that let's get the ball rolling. This is the product I want to use. What are your if we had come and said, we absolutely don't want this fence, then he could
Mhm.
prepare
Pick
something else
something
for
new.
next time, so this, you know.
Well, does anybody have strong feelings about this fence in terms of what's being proposed? In terms
The
of
old
feedback
fence
for
was kinda
that?
cool looking,
Yeah.
the new fence is not cool by any
So,
stretch of my.
yeah, I would say that the existing fence has some curved components, there's more, it's less dense, and it's decorative.
It's decorative, I think that's very.
Right, and this fence is a severe weather fence.
It's like it's to repel invading armies.
He did not shop around for fences, he just looked for a wood fence at Home Depot, and this is what we got.
But what is our basis in terms of historical value? In terms of making some sort of judgment on that?
Massing and character, I would say. Like having a fence without any gaps between the slats is a different idea.
And the application says that the replacement is with similar wood fencing, and so similar.
What, they're both pine?
Yeah.
Wood, they're both wood?
Yeah,
Organic.
Organic.
Yeah, I'm looking for a little more similarity.
I wonder how old that fence is, that existing fence. I'd be curious.
It's really charming when you look at it.
I think it's older than it's older than the 70s redo of the main property, but not as old as the house.
So, I mean, it's got some history.
Have you seen that fence form before?
Yeah.
I'm sure I have, but not paid that much attention to it. Have you?
No. I mean,
It's really kind of lovely.
Well, it's almost as if the person designed it themselves.
Right, it's kind of playful. Yeah,
Right.
very idiosyncratic.
And it may be an attempt to get a privacy fence out of an area where you can't have one.
Well, and
Well, like the decoration in the shed.
You
which property is that?
What?
I said, yeah, which property is that?
Yeah, it's the neighbors.
Is that the,
It's an Elm Street
French's?
address.
So what do you want to visit with?
This kind of fence here.
Just to start.
So,
Yeah.
how bad is the existing fence?
Well,
How tall is it?
That, he said he would
6
cut
foot.
it down to, his intention was to take this material, make it 5 feet high, and replace the existing fence with that,
which is 6 feet?
which varies because it's got some curves to it, so it's between 5 and 6 feet. I think
Just a question, when a fence has a limit of 4 feet, should that include protrusions like finials and things like that?
Yeah.
So,
It's 20, you're allowed 20% beyond the 4 feet in finials, and similar with the rear fence of 6 feet.
So that's almost another foot.
Yeah, it's 10 inches or so,
Mhm.
9 point whatever.
Mhm.
Almost 10 inches.
Yeah, 9 point something.
Okay, good.
I guess it seems to me that since the applicant is very willing to come and talk to us, this is sort of like floating a weather balloon saying, if we know you won't take this material, it gives some time to come next time with a proposal that would work.
so certainly wood is encouraged, right? My concern is if he plans to install it at 6 feet, that's
5 feet.
5 feet.
Yes.
Okay, so he's going to physically cut down the
Yes.
existing fence. And then the fence on the property line, what is the tallest section of that, or the fence along the driveway of the?
I didn't go and measure it all, but he says it varies up to 6 and 7 feet depending on the slope of it.
So, did you ascertain why 5 feet, Chris?
Not, I deduced that he was trying to comply with village codes and saying, hey, I will keep it even lower than what's there, is the idea.
I like the things. Golden.
I know.
How terribly tore up is it?
Well, I mean, anything can be rebuilt and replaced. I mean, it's, it has some damage, but you could get a piece of pine and paint it or whatever.
So, and the applicant in the central New York area, it looks like from the application. What kinds of questions do we want Chris to convey to the applicant? We need a site map, and we need to know exactly where the new fence is gonna go, and indicated on that site map what heights they plan. Is it gonna be consistently 5 feet, or is it gonna be staggered somehow? If there is gonna be a fence above 4 feet, because it is not truly a replacement in kind, if they're proposing something that's solid without some kind of space that kind of visually breaks it up, then we certainly need consent of the neighbors. What else would folks like to see?
I just,
Detail of what it looks like.
yeah, more context.
More, yeah, and how, we need, short of being on the property, to see it in the context of their property.
I would ask, does the fence have historic value, the way it's designed, and if so, is it something that we could actually make a stand on in terms of, if we feel strongly about hearts on shutters, do we feel strongly about the shapes of pickets and fences, and
I see it in Essex.
I'm sorry?
I see it in Essex. I see this fence made in Essex. Foam PVC.
I think this property is owned by the estate of Richard Carr, so they may have some information about the original, the fence they're seeking to replace. If they have any information about the fence they'd like to replace, that would be helpful information.
And if we are in a position to make a judgment on its historic value and its value of its preservation, what guidelines do we use in terms of what it can be replaced with? And does that fence that they're proposing, are there any qualms with that style in terms of, do we have any stance in terms of whatever they want to use, as long as it's wood and it doesn't have to go over a certain height with the pickets and so forth? Do we have any stance on that?
I think in terms of precedent, if it doesn't exceed the 4-foot limit, we have, and it's wood, we haven't pushed back too far with folks on design. This is a pretty long fence and pretty prominent in terms of the view from the street. So it'd be really helpful to understand exactly where they plan to have this fence start and end, and how much fence there's gonna be. But if folks also have concerns about the proposed style, even shorter, whether it's 4 feet or 5 feet, you know, it's treated, so there's the potential that it won't be painted, if that leads to a concern or a question, in terms of.
That's a hard fence to paint.
Yeah, yeah, but, and yet a treated fence is going to have a much different visual impact than a painted fence.
I mean, I'd rather that they even alternate like a spade top shape, like a pointy shape with a straight shape. That would have something more to do with the fence that exists than, and that there'd just be some spaces. Like, I think just a little bit of thinking about how the fence could
More
relate to the existing
accurately
fence.
reflect what's, and that would allow us to say they're trying to replace, they're trying to reflect what's there. And then, you know, if they're really trying to reflect what's there, do they need to go to the neighbor? Are they trying to do in kind by mimicking some kind of pattern, potentially paintable, some spacing to not have it be so massed and heavy?
So it seems like that is called a spade, like when it's pointy and it goes in, right? It's a spade picket.
Thank you.
The internet is so helpful. It's a
Learn
spade
something
shape.
new at every day at
Spade-
HCARB.
Spade picket.
As much as I'm into the spade picket, I feel like a devil's advocate saying that it is something that's not permanent. It's replaceable in the future if the future owner doesn't like it, but I do, especially as it's been brought up, if it's unpainted and the style that it is, it can really
Have an impact.
have an impact on the historical appreciation of the property and the house and the
And
surroundings.
certainly, I think about the proximity to the neighbors. I mean, it's not just has an impact on that property, but, you know, the neighbor is now faced with a wall of fence. And that's why I think we really have to, especially if it's over 4 feet, even though, you know, make sure we're acknowledging that.
And being, you know, that he has months and he's very willing to come talk to us, I think this is exactly what he's looking for, some information to.
Maybe a little bit, you know, unless he's really married to that style and that height, encouraging a little bit more kind of thoughtfulness in kind of picking something out that might not have as dramatic a visual impact as this one does.
Yeah, perhaps they didn't think about it really.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Very likely what he was thinking about is it's less than $7 a foot.
And Home Depot could be here in a week.
And it's much easier to install in sections than it is board rails and board at a time. Of course,
But on the other hand, if you're gonna trim it down, you create a whole new set of complications too.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, so, that sounds like a lot of work too, and, you know.
Well, but I think this old boy needs to do a little more homework.
Yeah, so getting a little bit more kind of focused on what the goals are and how it's gonna look is probably
I will
ideal.
talk to him.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Once again, devil's advocate, do we have something helpful to tell the property owner in terms of their thoughts about trying to keep it to a certain height to appease us, even though it was taller before?
Well, we do know that if it's 4 feet or less, it does not need the consent of the neighbors or the acquiescence of the neighbors. So that's part of the law. So are they trying to contain large dogs, or do they just want a fence for some privacy? You know, kind of thinking about what their goals are. But that takes one variable out if they're sticking with 4 feet or less.
Where is the owner currently?
Hinckley, New York.
Yeah.
Where?
Maybe he lives in
Exactly.
a neighborhood with 6-foot fences and he thinks that's normal. Who knows?
I would hazard to guess that Hinckley is even more remote than most of our places, because I've never heard of it. Hinckley, New York.
I've been to 2 county fairs and a goat roping and I never heard of it either.
Hinckley is near Prospect,
Which is near,
north of Gravesville, near Russia.
near Russia, all right.
Remsen, there you go. Heard of that one.
Okay.
So you're north of Utica,
Not too far.
and south of the Adirondacks, how's that?
So worry about your neighbors.
So I don't know if fences are big in Hinckley, but that's my guess.
It's like between Utica and Boonville.
So it's a lot of space.
But we would consider a taller fence because the existing one's taller.
Yes, it's not out of the question, but it does require neighbor acquiescence on.
Or if you feel like passing those two things on in terms of not needing neighbor approval, less. than
Again,
4 feet,
taking the
but then we
variables
would-
out.
Right.
But that we would consider taller, adding a variable.
Yeah, so it really depends on what their goals are. Feel like you have enough feedback?
I do, yeah, I think
Yeah.
for him to show up at the next meeting, which he intends to, this gives him a lot to chew on beforehand, so we don't have to, might have a solution that works for everybody. And I'll make sure that he gets consent from the neighbors before over 4 feet.
And you may want to wait till he comes up with a final plan before he seeks consent, so he doesn't have to open a can of worms if
Right.
necessary.
Call it that cool spade fence.
Yeah. Like Bernie said, it's reversible, but it is gonna have a pretty sizable impact, and like every fence that goes up with or without permission, the next person points to it and says, they did it. So we do still have to kind of be thoughtful about.
All the fairies of the gnomes are gonna be out hanging out at the base.
Yep. Should we approve 2 sets of minutes from September and October of 2023? Let's see. We can approve them one by one. People at the September meeting included Liz, Pat, Dave, Bernie, and Aaron. So the 5 of us can work on this approval. Everybody get to take a look at them? Anybody want to make a motion when people are ready?
I'll move to accept the September meeting minutes.
Thank you, Aaron.
I say yes.
Thank you, Bernie. Bernie seconds. Liz votes yes.
Brad, yes.
David, yes.
I think Bernie and Aaron have voted. Okay, same configuration, plus Jay as an alternate for October. So when folks feel somebody is ready to make a motion, go ahead.
Let's just ask about, on page 7, all those question marks. Is that correct?
They've been resolved.
Okay.
So these were the draft, yes, and we weren't sure of names, so I was hoping they would get resolved tonight.
Yes, yes.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Time, I move to approve minutes for October 10th.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Thank you, Pat.
Yes.
Thank you, Bernie. Liz, yes.
Aaron, yes.
David, yes.
Thank you. We can probably turn the recording off now. And I want to thank everybody for being willing to come to the training on the 27th.
I think so.
And we will work